In the previous video on this Vibrolux reverb, I mentioned that I wasn't going to redo the grounds and the output due to the client's budget. Did all the work that you saw in that video, and I was putting it all together to see if the tremolo tick returned. And there was a buzz that was present in the amp with all volumes off that went away if I touched the chassis. And I got a flathead screwdriver and contacted the chassis at the same time that I contacted the AC safety ground lug that was just held down by a transformer mounting bolt, and that buzz went away. And that told me that that ground through the transformer mounting hardware was not good. And it was a flat washer beneath a regular nut, no caps or anything, just to the chassis, and just metal to metal corrosion. Yeah, it happens. So I went ahead and redid these 3 grounds to chassis properly, and that buzz is gone. So AC safety ground made directly to chassis, not to mounting hardware. Bias directly to chassis. HD center tap, heater center tap, and the reservoir cap made directly to chassis. And Kep's nuts now hold the transformer in place, and that's all they're doing is holding the transformer in place. You can see a little bit of flux powder over here I need to clean up. That's no big deal. But the buzz is gone. There is a remaining buzz if the channel volumes are up. And that's like 6. As soon as the shielding is in place, that will go away. I can make it worse or better by where my hand is, and that's a sign of shielding. I'm not worried about that in the slightest. Same on this channel. That's how they work, and they have that screen porch material on the top of the cabinet, which will make that go away. So next thing to do is to let this run for a while and see if the tremolo starts ticking as it was doing before. Now, something I did not show in the previous video was between the video 1 and video 2, I cleaned all this stuff off, and I cleaned the boards. Now, what just happened there? I think we just lost all sound in the end when I touched something over here. Nothing blew, the fuses didn't blow or anything. Let me see if I can figure out what that was. Okay, it's a solder joint right here. And that's one of the first places I looked, because what happens is the board flexes. As you can see, this board is flexed, and these horizontally mounted resistors are prone to pulling out of the solder joints, particularly this 100 ohm here. It's a 47 ohm in the Deluxe Reverb. It's a 100 ohm. It's a 47 ohm in the Deluxe Reverb. All the models which have 6L6s like this Vibrolux use 100. So let me reflow this solder joint and this solder joint and see if that goes away. All right, yeah, this 2-watt metal oxide was in here, but it had been cut too short. The leads weren't long enough, and it was physically pulling out of this solder joint, which is ground. I could see a little hole in the solder joint that this was just poking into. It pulled out. And so I installed this 1/2-watt 100 ohm carbon film. Since this amp has had so much work, I didn't feel the need to use one of my carbon composites. And you can see I gave it little shock absorbers here. So if the board continues to flex, this won't pull out here. It'll kind of stretch out here at these curves. And now, we power it back on. We shouldn't lose power at all. While I'm waiting for that to warm up, as I was saying before, we lost all signal because the old Tech's resistor had pulled out of the solder joint. I had cleaned the board and cleaned all the wires very thoroughly, hoping that that would eliminate that ticking in the tremolo. So that ticking before took about 20 minutes before it appeared. So This won't be the real test for that. I'll have to revisit this after the amp's been on a while. But now, I'm not losing signal if I manipulate that part of the board. You can hear the tremolo in the background because it's affecting the noise level. This is the noise level with the vibrato channel on 10. Not bad. So I'm going to leave this on and see if I start to hear ticking. Microphonics is really good. Again, this amp is on 10, so some lead dress I need to clean up a bit here and there down the preamp end, but nothing major. All those sounds you hear are normal when I manipulate these old wires. And it's good to manipulate them with the amp on like that. If it's a problem, I may add the normal channel to it. I know what's a normal amount of noise and what's abnormal. And this is all quite good. Remember, both channels are on 10, so the noise floor is great. I hear that as I get close there in my hand. Hope you hear it. I'm going to put a piece of metal on top of this for two reasons. It'll let me test the noise floor of the amp when it's shielded in the cabinet, and it'll let heat build up inside, which may exacerbate any tendency for the tremolo to tick, which I want to know about. So let me get a piece of metal real quick. All right. Put the metal in place. Get the volume on 4. Nice quiet amp. Ticking in the tremolos. Less than it was. More than I want it to be. So let me show you guys the fix for a ticking tremolo. Okay. Right here across the roach from this lug to this lug, so from the high voltage on the neon to ground, we put in a 10 nanofarad cap. That's a 0.01 microfarad. You can also use a 22 nanofarad or 0.022. The original Fender field service note on this was a 22. I find that a 10 works just fine and takes up less space. It almost doesn't matter what kind of cap you use. I have a Mallory 150 here. As long as it's rated for 600 volts or so. This one's 630. The polarity doesn't matter here, but don't use an electrolytic. And that will take care of most of it. The other thing I did was I steered the wires to and from the tremolo circuit away from the tone stack controls here. So just that little bit of gap away from the audio stuff really helps. Sometimes you'll get crosstalk, and any oscillation sounds in this can get transferred there. And before I call this tremolo fixed, I want to see if I can optimize the lead dress here in V5 and keep it away from V4. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that through the lav mic, but in the room, that's even quieter. All these wires here are in the reverb and mixer circuit. This is the second stage where the reverb and dryer mixed, and I wanted to increase the distance from them to the wires to and from the tremolo. I have all the tremolo wires bundled neatly together. Sometimes the cathode and grid of V5A are overly sensitive to being near the wire going to the foot switch for the tremolo, so sometimes moving that helps. For whatever reason, in this case, it makes no difference. And I also steered the tremolo stuff away from the phase inverter stuff. I need some of these phase inverter wires while I'm in here, just because I like to have everything just so. Phase inverter is pretty resistant to noise anyway due to its design. It's basically a humbucking pickup, but more on that idea in some other video. I'm really glad I found that cutout here. It would have been embarrassing to give this amp back to the owner and be very proud of my work and have them try it on a gig or at volume and have it cut out from vibration. It certainly would have at some point. All right, I'm real pleased with this. I'm gonna put the lid on for a little bit and let it generate some heat. Just build up some heat from the power amp and power tubes up into the preamp of this channel and see what I hear as it just sits in the background.